We saw the presentation by Manoj Dubal sir on 3311 and 3320B. Then we saw about transit-oriented development. And as rightly said by Manoj bhai, that there's a buffet of FSIs that we have available. So we always have three questions. The first one is Q, which scheme to go for. The second, how, कैसे करना है. And the third, कितना देती है. So once we answered this question one by one, I think it makes a lot of sense. And what is important is we understand which schemes work for you. So I'm going to structure this entire presentation in a nutshell to you out here. I'm going to compare certain advantages that it has over 3311 and 3320B. Certain advantages, not all the advantages. What is 3320B? Then there were certain clarifications issued when it is developed with 33.7 in combination with 33.12 because it's very different than the other development schemes. There is a feasibility sample and there was a recent very important and the most important legal opinion obtained by Milind Changani sir, and UD has now concurred that the legal opinion can be followed by BMC. Because there were a lot of apprehensions on 3312B. Can we buy slum structures? Is this scheme safe, unsafe? Will the scheme stop at any given point of time? And a lot of these answers have been answered in this legal opinion. It may get challenged, it may not get challenged, it's a different subject. As on date, this is applicable. So the first and the foremost importance is any redevelopment scheme that we saw, whether it's 11, 20B, 19, or we have 23 regulations and you can combine two of them and we have 500 permutations available. But most of them have a road width criteria attached. This is the only scheme where there is no road width criteria. So even on a 6-meter road, you can go up to FSI 4. But you should have the adequate height to consume the FSI. Also be reasonable, whether it is feasible, not feasible. You can't create nonsensical structures. You've got an impression of Bombay to create. So make sure that you have a right balance in hand. But the most important is, under any other scheme, there is a minimum road width criteria. For example, 11 and 20, you have 12 meters for 3 FSI. And more than 18 meters, 4 FSI. Whereas here you get 4 FSI on a 6-meter road with itself. When you are dealing with 33.7, there are certain exceptions being made because generally this FSI is net plot. But in 33.7, because the original scheme is on gross plot, how the combination works, we will be discussing that. And the legal opinion, we will be discussing at the end of the entire presentation. Now, what is 3312B? So, 12B is like, there are structures that are coming in the road widening, generally. To implement them, you need to remove those structures, and BMC does not have the funds to rehabilitate a lot of time. So, it comes as a public-private partnership with developers, where you take the responsibility of rehabilitating those structures somewhere else or in your project, and you get 50% incentive SSI. So if you're taking a residential tenement from a road, you have to give minimum 300 square feet to that person. You can give fungible, which is not there in 11, to that person, and you get 50% additional incentive FSI. The total FSI cannot exceed 4 on the net plot. So indirectly what happens is you get 67% as rehab component and 33% as sale component. But today this rehab component can also be purchased, which is the key change that has been brought in by the legal opinion. In this 3312 there are 2 types. Yes. In this there are 2 critical components, 3312A, which is structures from contravailing TP schemes. You had an original plot, then you had a final plot, and there are structures which are left out from the original plot after the final plot into the original plot, and they were blocking either reservations or road widening. They fall as contravailing structures and they have to be removed. They come under 12A. When you are redeveloping your schemes, if those structures are within your plot, you cannot take them within 12A or 12B. They have to be in the road, not part of your plots. So 12A is about contravailing structures in TP schemes. 12B is about road structures coming in the alignment of road. Now here there are various types of structures. For example, the road might be a public road and the structures are already there. Suppose there are cess buildings, there are other tolerated structures which are prior to 64 and 62 existing on site on private lands or government lands, they can be taken under 12B. So these structures have to be removed, the land has to be handed over to corporation, and then you get this FSI for yourself. This is a specific modification which was brought in with 33(7). So everybody knows 33(7) is redevelopment of cessed properties. And in 33(7) the FSI is on gross plot. That means you get 3 FSI on the entire plot, irrespective of the setback and other parameters. Now, when you do 33(12) and if you calculate on net plot, the effectiveness of the 33(12) was getting reduced. So a representation was made by PEATA, NAREDCO, MCHI, all of us together to the government, and 2 key features were brought in, that when 33(12) is done with 33(7), 1, FSI of gross plot of 3 on the entire plot shall remain, and then FSI 1 entirely on net plot shall be given to you. I will show the difference in the next slide. Second biggest advantage is the premiums. For the rehab component under 33(12), we'll get the same benefits of 33(7). So there is no staircase premium. OSD is 2.5%. For 67% of your FSI that you generated is at a subsidy cost, and only 33% is at a normal cost, which in any other scheme exponentially increases. So if you notice the column on the right side, on the left side is before the clarification. Say you had a 1000 meter plot, you had a 100 meter setback, so 900 square meters of the net plot. Frankly put, if you get FSI of 4, it will be 3600 square meters, right? But because of this clarification, now what happens is it's 1000 into 3, which is 3000, and the net plot 900 into 1 is 3900. So 10% FSI got enhanced when you do the combination with 33(7) only. For any other scheme, when you're doing combination, it is a net plot as good as doing in most other combination schemes. But the difference is the premiums, again, when done with 33(7), as I explained, it is at a subsidy because the rehab component will get the same benefits as 33(7). The third biggest example, the advantage which happens in 33(7) is when you do clubbing FSI in 33(7), your composite buildings become non-composite by nature. But when you do 33(12) with that 33(7) composite, it remains as it is because they treat it as 2 different regulations and combination coming together. The second question, kaise karna hai? Who will certify, right? Now, most of these structures, if they are cessed structures, MARDA will certify. Otherwise, the board, each and every board is supposed to certify their own tenements. You can take structures only from your own ward or from your own PP schemes. You can't take structures from other wards into your schemes. And for the board to certify these structures, a very systematic procedure was laid down in 2022, where a complete online system has been made so that there is no fraudulent ways of giving same PAPs, multiple structures. Their Aadhaar number, biometrics are locked onto the particular structure with a bio-tagging, so that otherwise same structures are getting sold and a fraud was getting created, which is now totally eliminated. The most common question asked to us that what is the carpet area to be given to these tenements? Is it MOFA or RERA? Well, even when you're doing combination schemes with 33(7), 33(9) or 33(10), the carpet area to the rehab is MOFA generally in terms of translation. But when you're doing 33(12), the carpet area to be given to them is actually RERA, because there is no specific provision in the regulation that it should be treated with excluding of walls, excluding of other areas. So when it is not mentioned, the dominant or the predominant definition always governs, which is the RERA definition of the carpet area. In terms of process, the other streamlining that was done was, we used to take one structure from this road, one structure from another road, and no road was getting clear. Now that was becoming too nonsensical. So a guideline was formed that the BMC ward office will identify 3 priority roads. It will take the structures in a orderly manner so that the road gets actually widened, and not that it's just a profiteering business where you just take structures from wherever and ultimately the road don't get widened and new structures come over those spaces. So 3 roads have to be identified. There's a bottleneck policy formulated. the proper online system has been created to make the annexure 2 module to avoid, as I was just explaining. Now, when you go to BMC for approval of plans, there are 3 critical steps. Number 1, you have to obtain a formal NOC, which is identifying the structure, and then you can get approval of plans. Then you take an advanced possession, that is vacate the structures, give it to the BMC, and when they give you a final possession receipt and a final NOC, only then you will get CC for that component. Till that time, you cannot get CC for your 3312 rehab or sale component. At the same time, concessions are available to you, like any other additional FSI TDR conceptually. You can apply under 3312B, get the entire concessions approved, but IOD will be issued only after formal NOC comes. CC will be issued only after final NOC, that is handing over this road, cleaned up the space, possession receipt issued, advance possession taken, on final NOC is taken by the ward office, you will get your CC. Third question, kitna deti? On an average, each PAP along with the purchase cost, averagely, if the ready reckoner rate is around 90,000 rupees a square meter or something like that, your FSI will come to almost 20,500 rupees a square feet. So if your sale price is above 30, 32, this is a scheme where you can look into. Of course, GST is not added on premiums, which is a challengeable subject, but give and take 10%, this scheme does become viable when your sale price is above 30, 32,000 rupees a square feet on the carpet area. Earlier, there were restrictions on how much carpet area you could give. You could not give them more than the adequate carpet area. Now this has slightly changed that because of the legal opinion, and I'm going to take it. There are 3 important questions asked in the legal opinion by the corporation to Milind Changani. First question, whether 3312B can be treated on par with slums. His answer is in the negative. He has given a very detailed explanation as to why it should not be treated on par with slum schemes or 3310 schemes. So the answer is in the negative. The second question that was asked, is there any restriction on the sale of these tenements for the purpose by the REA component? He has said there is no restriction. The reason being, these are not slum redevelopment schemes. This does not fall under the chapter 3E of 3310. Therefore, these structures, the purpose of this entire scheme was to ensure that the roads are widened, not about redevelopment of slums or any other structures. So there is no restriction on the sale, transfer, purchase before or after occupation. You can purchase it before, you can purchase it after. Is a clear-cut question and answer given by Milind Changani. And the third and the most important is, can we amalgamate these units with a sale component or other units or whatever that may be? In the affirmative, yes sir. Even that can be done before or after occupation. Yes, corporation does have, certain officers may have certain reservations in their head because this is, slightly difficult to digest. But the legal opinion is very clear that you can amalgamate these structures with the sale component or other units if and only if the ownership is one. Now, if you are taking 2 units and they are different ownership, you can't amalgamate. Have logical sense. Then you have to sell it to one person to amalgamate. Yeah. So 2 units also can be amalgamated provided ownership is single. That is logical. Today you buy 2 different flats and you want to go to the building proposal irrespective of the scheme and you want to amalgamate your flat, your ownership has to be one. This is a legal opinion. I've just marked out 2 different red. It says victory or whatever the combination. The legal opinion obtained by the corporation. UD has now concurred that it does not object to it and BMC can go ahead with that. So officially this has been endorsed by UD and BMC is bound to follow it. In the conclusion, this FSI gives you up to FSI of 4. There is no road with criteria. Incentive is 50%. There are 2 types of schemes, 12A and 12B. 12A is for TP schemes, 12B is for widening of the roads. If you are private owners, you can also get TDR for your land, but basic FSI के हिसाब से TDR भी मिलेगा. So the land, if it's a private landowner, you can negotiate with him for not just TDR, and you'll have to compensate because he will expect something more. But at least something is compensated back. Sale and purchase, certification by what, and in case of cess structures by MADA, sale and purchase of tenements is permissible. Amalgamation of units is permissible. Thank you.